I'm curious where you think Japan is at in their kind of cycle of development towards the World Cup next summer. We saw this stat just today, actually. It's from Reddit. Shout out to the person who calculated this. That it showed that Japan has actually played the toughest opponents on average, according to FIFA rankings, since the end of the Olympics. So they're just really challenging themselves, and I'm wondering if we'll see that pay off for them.
I think so. Absolutely. I mean, they had just won the Asian Cup. They played Australia in front of like 74,000 fans. So they show that they can beat big teams in big moments. And yeah, I thought they were kind of played off the park by the Americans in that third game.
Yeah.
But if you look at game 1 and 2, the possession was not the same. Obviously, the Americans outpossessed this side. But like the shots on goal, the final passes into the third, like the actual like quality chances, they were pretty close. And so those first 2 games could have gone either way, I think. And like the ball bounced our way more often than not, except for that third game, obviously.
Right.
So I think Japan is one of the best teams in the world. Emma Hayes called them the best defensive team in the world, which watching them, I agree. Like the way that they press, the back press, how they individually defend, but also how they cover for one another, how they defend the box, like that was all very elite. And that's only going to, for them, grow and get better as they play against these amazing teams that will challenge them and help them close their gaps. You know, kind of how the Americans talk about we're closing our gaps by playing against the best teams in the world. And so it was strange that their coach got fired after, winning the Asian Cup.
Did you get any scoop on that in camp?
Honestly, everyone's kind of like, is something going to come out? But it basically was like a culture difference. He just
that's all that we heard. Yeah.
That's all that we heard as well. So I don't have anything to add to that.
Okay.
Just kind of strange that they were doing so well for so long with him and then to let him go. So I don't know if that's going to play into it in any way.
Yeah.
But I guess time will tell.
Yeah. So interesting. And I definitely agree. I just have one like follow up on Japan defensively, because I definitely agree that back press, their defensive organization, the way they get numbers around the ball, the way they rush you for time, their press was really, really effective. But they're set pieces. Yeah. And I kind of feel like Sam Kerr criticizing Christy in the documentary that everybody always references when she's like, you guys need to work on your set pieces. But it was like, I mean, I think we had so many chances off of set pieces that I'm just like surprised for such an organized team to have let up so much.
Yeah. And I would say their set pieces of all the defending was just like, guys, like what are,
I know
the one that Rose scored where it was just like Sam Coffey hit a free kick, Trinity bounced it back, and I'm just kind of like,
but then the same thing with Kennedy, who headed it right back across, and then Naomi in the third game had like 3 of those chances before she scored.
Yeah, that they probably need to hire like a set piece
specialist
basically, because if that is what takes them out of the contention of the major tournaments, like they got to address it, because clearly that is a gap for them.
Yeah. Totally agree. All right. Well, this is a good takeaway of the camp. I think I'm so glad that we got your perspective, because I know that you were there in person. We also have a brand new episode of The Captain with Lindsay Heaps coming out on Wednesday. So if people want even more U.S. women's national team, well, I feel like coming out of that first game, feelings were mostly positive. We knew going into the second game that there was going to be a big lineup change, because Emma told us that in a press conference. We ended up losing the second game 1-0. It was rainy in Seattle, incredible crowd, but obviously we had a lot less experience on the field. Lots of younger players. They had less caps. And Emma, told us before and after she wanted to do this. She wanted these players to be uncomfortable, to have to try their best to perform against a top team like Japan. I think watching these players play against such a difficult opponent is more revealing of who's ready right now, who needs a little bit more time. And Emma went so far as to say that she wants to prioritize development over results, which at this phase in the cycle, I think is still appropriate. And I do think we learned so much from this game. You subbed onto the field in the 71st minute. We were down a goal. And, there's lots to get into with like the loss and the play in general. But what I will say is that you coming on the field, your presence instantly changes the game. We talked about this in one of the games that she believes how there just became more urgency. You're trying to move the ball more up the field, being more aggressive. And I think what I sense from the outside is that your presence as a leader and as such an experienced veteran of this team actually gives other players permission to be less afraid, to be more bold, less tentative. I'm curious if you sense that, if you feel either the weight of that or if you feel the energy shift when you insert yourself.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that. I think I did feel it in the second game, but I also told myself I'm like this is my I like I didn't know if I was gonna get minutes in this game, but I
Yeah.
really wanted to because I'm like I think I can try and make a difference here and like just accelerate something or like you said, give players the belief that we can go and we can get a goal. Maybe we can get
Mm-hmm.
two. Maybe we can win this game. So me stepping onto the field, that was the number one thing I said in my head. And I think you pinpointed like the most important thing there is like won the game for the 70 minutes prior to me coming in. We controlled, I think, 70% of it. I can't remember Emma gave us the
Yeah.
stats of the possession, and that's incredible for such a young team against such a high quality uh Japan team. And
Mm-hmm.
I know they had changes and everything too, but it takes nothing away from what they did. Like could they have been better in certain moments, maybe in the final third, accelerating the attack sometimes, like little things like that. It's like there's a balance between the control and like, hey, when are we going? When are we?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I needed to bring. For me, it's like when these kind of moments happen, you stop thinking about like mistakes. You don't think about being afraid. It's like your main focus is about winning. And we spoke a lot about this in our debrief after the game, where it's like in our debrief just as a team, it's like, hey, we want to control the game. We want to do all these things that, the coaches are instilling in us and our style of play, our principles. But when we want to win, like that mentality shift of like, we're accelerating, we're aggressive of mentality, we are, a little bit more final third, it's like grit, ruthless, like, and so that's something that I felt like I did bring. I also think I could have scored, like, and I said that to the team. It's like maybe you walk away from that game with a tie, and we're feeling a little bit differently, and that's on me too because I could have scored. We could have scored multiple times in that final 20 minutes.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I think something that I'll say, because I appreciate that maybe there was a little bit more like grit or just like, I don't know. I don't even want to use the word intensity. It's like
Yeah.
because I remember being a young player on the national team, and I'm not putting this on anybody, but I remember being scared and tentative and
Mhm.
not wanting to like overextend myself to the point where I couldn't recover from a
Yeah.
mistake. And so there is a feel for me, there was a feeling of like hesitation out of just like, I'm not sure if this is right or not.
Yeah.
And I think the older you get and the more experience you get and the higher the stakes, the more you're like, this is like do or die. Like, I have to slide here. I have to play this ball through, even if, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but we're
Yeah.
not going to score unless we try it. And so I appreciated that this was an opportunity for some of those younger players to learn that. And I think that what Emma can take away from how that game went is that some players are absolutely ready to like step up and be in those situations, and some players needed that opportunity to be like, oh, I need to reevaluate, and I need to be like, next time I'm in this situation, I need to
Yeah.
overextend myself in a different way, play a little bit more boldly. So in a sense, I'm like glad that we were exposed to it. I know that, we always say like this team doesn't lose, and maybe that narrative is, Emma has even come out and been like, we should, like, sometimes we have to lose games. I'm prioritizing development. We will learn from this. And so the whole thing was super interesting. We learned a ton from it. I think what I want to know as captain, if some of those younger players maybe went away from that game with their shoulders down, feeling like they failed, how do you as a team lift them back up and not let them carry the weight of what wasn't like necessarily a dream performance for them?
I think for me, it's like you are allowed to be like disappointed or frustrated in the result. I'll never take away like those emotions, but I feel like in the midst of a 3 game camp and with having a third Japan game coming up, it was kind of like this isn't solely like individual. This is a team thing, and
Mm-hmm.
like you said, Emma is developing. This is all part of the project,
Mm-hmm.
and part of the lead up into qualifying. Like, we needed to see this, we needed to do this, and it's not easy. Like, you were playing against Japan. Like, that's and again, look at all the positives that came out of this game. You guys controlled the game for extended periods of time. Like, and that you look back at last She Believes when we played Japan, we were terrible. We could not get out of our defensive third at times. Like it, and you look at how we played in these 3 games, massive progress. So it's like, okay, you can sit there like I was too, just pissed. Like,
Yeah.
we lost the game. You are allowed to be pissed, and you are allowed to be pissed for that day. And then tomorrow, we have a new opportunity to go play in basically a final. And I think that was Emma's message to the team. That was, the leadership and the team's our message, talking about it as a group, that these things happen. And like you said, we don't like losing, but maybe it is a good thing in a way to have that kind of game and to really learn from it. So, and again, I'm really proud of, the way that we reacted after that.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess my last question about the loss, and I think it is just this, like, I'm a former player, and like one of the things that like I even said is like, yeah, the national team does not lose, like, but nobody will learn more from this loss than those players. Like, I have to trust that the DNA and that the mentality and that the structures around this team, that those players are taking it harder than anybody else on the outside. And so I think what I'm curious about from your perspective, as somebody who has been through so many cycles, has been through periods of the national team never losing a game in a whole year, has been through periods of the national team losing multiple games in a row. Like, what do you think? Where does the expression the U.S. women's national team doesn't lose still ring true to you? Does it mean something? Or are we in an era where women's soccer is so evolved that you will learn more from the losses and they're a necessary part of developing a team?
Yes. Like,
Both.
it's, I've the answer, yes. No,
Yeah, I know. It's a perfect answer.
No, I really fight with this. I argue in a good way with Emma about this, because I will always be that player that's like, no, we should have won that game. We absolutely should have won it. We should have come out with a point. And that's our mentality. The mentality should have been better. And this is, just after the game where I'm heated and in the moment. And then you look back at the progression of the women's game, and you're like, is that fair to say? Like, now I'm questioning myself, because I'm like, look at where the women's game has gotten to with all of these national teams. No game is easy by any means, no matter who you're playing. I'm sorry, it's not easy. And that is such an incredible thing to say in the first place, like, that you get to go up against these teams. But I then have to take the captain's point of view too, where it is about developing. It is about giving these young players experience. And like, if this, helps that young Claire Hutton in a World Cup game come, Emma kind of spoke about it as like the game 5 in a World Cup, and we are more ready for that moment when we're down a goal and we now know what to do. Like, hey, and it goes the same for like me. Like, I just came into that game. Maybe that's a case down the road where like we're in that same situation where now I'm coming into a game, or I had started and someone else is coming. Like, you gain so much experience from that. So again, yes is my answer.
Yeah. I think that is exactly the answer. And that's the line that I always try to walk in this role too, is because I'm like, nobody cares more than these players. Nobody thinks it's more unacceptable than they do. But when I think back, if I hadn't watched our 2016 Olympics team lose, if we hadn't lost to France in 2019 before the World Cup, the lessons we took from those moments, the lessons I as a young player was then able to be like, oh, this is what this feels like. This is what we did wrong. This is where I need to be way better.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's why I could contribute in 2019, is because I had been exposed to a level of play that was a little bit beyond me, and I needed to like catch up, and I needed to like learn from it. So the loss is at once, to the standards of this team, unacceptable, and also really important. And you were able to turn it around in that quick turnaround. You come out, you win the third game 3-0. But before we get into that, you are in Colorado. It's April. there was a blizzard. Literally, like the day of the game, there was like inches of snow on the field. They had to plow it off. What did you make of that? Like, what were the conditions like for the players?
It's so funny. I mean, by the way, this is so Colorado. Like
that's
the
what I
day
hear.
yeah, the day before it's like 70 degrees, and then you see a snowstorm's coming in, and everyone's like, "What in the world is happening?" I'm like, "It's fine. It will be fine by the game." And then the next day it will be 70 degrees. Oh, it's amazing. The conditions actually weren't that bad. I think some people were very cold and couldn't feel their feet, but
yeah, the Southern California girls, they're always cold.
All the new European players now, like Naomi and Alyssa, they're like, we're kind of like, we like this. And I'm like,
yeah,
you girls have changed.
Honestly, I mean, I don't know how cold it was, but I have been saying ever since I played in Man City, I'm like, oh yeah, a 90-minute game is appropriate when it's like not 90 and humid.
Yeah. I'm
Like
sorry, I would much rather play in 30-degree weather than 85-degree. No.
I know. I do hear you. It's so interesting. And there is this big question right now of if